1.5 billion people on this planet are currently walking around, going to work, cooking dinner, putting their children to bed, with living parasites actively feeding inside their bodies. Not in a developing country you've never visited, not in some abstract statistic. Right now, in your city, possibly in your home. And here's the part that should keep you up at night. Most of them have no idea. Parasites are not a medieval problem. They are not something you only get from drinking water in the jungle. The World Health Organization estimates that soil-transmitted helminths, roundworms, hookworms, whipworms infect nearly 1 in 4 human beings alive today. And that's just the worms they bother to count. What about Blastocystis hominis, a protozoan parasite found in the gut of roughly 20% of people in industrialized nations? What about Toxoplasma gondii, which studies now suggest has infected up to 1/3 of the global population, and which has been directly linked to behavioral changes, anxiety, and even schizophrenia risk in the peer-reviewed literature? You don't feel a worm moving, you don't see a protozoan, but you feel the consequences every single day. And you've been blaming the wrong thing. You've been blaming stress for your fatigue. You've been blaming your diet for your bloating. You've been blaming aging for your brain fog. You've been taking antacids, antidepressants, and sleeping pills, while the actual cause has been quietly eating your nutrients, hijacking your immune system, and producing toxic metabolic waste directly into your bloodstream. That bloating that never goes away? That's not irritable bowel. That is not a stress problem. That is a terrain problem. And nobody is going to tell you that unless they're willing to lose the billing code for the pill they want to sell you. Stay with me, because what I am about to show you changes everything. I want to talk to you for a moment about the system. I have been practicing functional and integrative medicine for 15 years. I have sat across from thousands of patients, real people, exhausted people, who came to me after the system had failed them. After the colonoscopy came back normal, after the blood work showed nothing concerning, after the gastroenterologist shrugged and said, "It's probably just IBS." And I want you to understand something fundamental about how conventional medicine works. It is not, and I want to be very precise here, it is not designed to find the cause. It is designed to classify a symptom and assign a pharmaceutical intervention. There is no billing code for parasitic terrain imbalance. There is no insurance reimbursement for gut microbiome disruption, secondary to chronic low-grade helminth burden. So, your doctor doesn't look for it. Not because they are bad people. Most of them are brilliant, overworked people trapped inside a revenue model disguised as a healthcare model. The single-dose deworming pill they might give you, mebendazole, albendazole, ivermectin. These are powerful tools. I am not telling you they are useless. What I am telling you is this: if you walk in, swallow a pill, and walk out, you have addressed the organism without addressing the environment that allowed the organism to thrive. And within weeks, months at most, that environment will invite the same guests back to the same party. Nobody in a white coat is going to tell you this, because there's no follow-up appointment, no repeat prescription, no revenue in a patient who actually heals. What I'm going to give you today is the protocol I've used, yet the actual step-by-step biological framework that addresses not just the parasite, but the terrain, the immune activation, the gut barrier, and the detoxification pathway simultaneously. This is not a theory. This is a documented physiological reality. But before I go any further, and I mean it, I'm about to go deep into the physiology of this, deeper than anything you've seen on this topic. I need to ask you for something small. If this channel has ever given you something your doctor didn't, a real answer, a framework, a reason to feel less alone in your health struggle, then please hit that subscribe button right now. We are 43,000 subscribers away from reaching 100,000 on this channel. Every single subscriber tells the algorithm that this kind of content, honest, evidence-based, system-questioning content, deserves to be seen. Hit the like button too. It takes 2 seconds, it costs you nothing. And it might put this video in front of someone who has been suffering for years and doesn't know why. Subscribe, like, and stay until the end. Because phase 6 is where I give you the exact clinical protocol, down to the gram and the minute. Don't skip it. Let's talk about what is actually happening inside your body when a parasite takes up residence, because I promise you it is far more sophisticated than anything you've been told. The gut barrier, your first battlefield. Your intestinal lining is, at its thickest, a single cell layer. One cell thick, that is the only barrier between the contents of your bowel and your bloodstream. These cells, called enterocytes, are held together by what scientists call tight junctions, protein complexes that act like biological zip ties keeping that barrier sealed. Parasites, particularly helminths like Ascaris lumbricoides and protozoa like Giardia lamblia, produce enzymes that directly degrade these tight junction proteins. They secrete proteases that break down nucleodin and claudin, the structural proteins that hold your gut wall together. The result is what we now clinically call intestinal hyperpermeability, or, in language your body understands, a leaky gut. And here is where it cascades. Once that barrier is compromised, bacterial endotoxins, specifically lipopolysaccharides, or LPS, from your normal gut bacteria begin crossing into the bloodstream. Your immune system sees LPS as a 5-alarm fire. It activates toll-like receptor 4. It floods your circulation with pro-inflammatory cytokines, TNF-alpha, IL-6, IL-1 beta. This is not localized inflammation. This is systemic, whole-body, chronic low-grade inflammatory activation. This is why you're tired. Not your thyroid, not your age. Your immune system has been running a low-grade war for months or years, and it is consuming your energy like a server running 100% CPU with no task visible on screen. The nutrient theft. Now, while your immune system is distracted, the parasites themselves are engaging in what I call biological taxation. Hookworms, Ankylostoma duodenale, literally attach to the intestinal mucosa and consume blood. Each adult hookworm can take between 0.03 and 0.2 milliliters of blood per day. If you have 100 worms, and symptomatic infections often involve far more, that is up to 20 milliliters of blood daily, quietly siphoned away while your CBC shows a mild anemia that your doctor attributes to diet. But it's not just iron. Ascaris larvae migrate through your liver and lungs. I want you to really hear that. They travel through your liver and lungs, consuming zinc, vitamin A, and competing for fat-soluble vitamins. Zinc is not just immune function. Zinc is the cofactor for over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body. Without adequate zinc, your T lymphocyte production drops. Your wound healing impairs, your sense of smell and taste diminish. Your testosterone synthesis, in both men and women, becomes compromised. You are, as I like to say, drinking through your legs. The nutrition is going in, and going straight to someone else's biology. The mitochondrial drain. Here is the part almost no one is talking about. Chronic parasitic infection does not just steal nutrients, it directly impairs mitochondrial function. Your mitochondria, the organelles responsible for producing ATP, the actual energy currency of every cell in your body, are exquisitely sensitive to oxidative stress and inflammatory signaling. The cytokine storm generated by your immune response to a chronic parasitic burden specifically downregulates a family of proteins called PGC1 alpha, the master regulator of mitochondrial biogenesis. Less PGC1 alpha means fewer functional mitochondria. Fewer mitochondria means less ATP. Less ATP means you need 3 coffees to feel like a functional human being. This is not laziness. This is not depression, though the neurological downstream of chronic mitochondrial dysfunction is indistinguishable from depression in many patients. This is a biological energy crisis with a biological cause. The vagus nerve connection. And then there's the brain. The gut and the brain are connected by the vagus nerve, a 10th cranial nerve that carries bidirectional information between your enteric nervous system and your central nervous system. Roughly 80% of the signals on that nerve travel upward, from gut to brain, not the other way around. When your gut is inflamed, when your intestinal wall is compromised and your immune system is in a state of chronic activation, Those distress signals travel directly up the vagus nerve and land in your amygdala, your prefrontal cortex, your hypothalamus. The result is what researchers are now calling sickness behavior: social withdrawal, cognitive slowing, heightened anxiety, disrupted sleep architecture, and a pervasive sense of malaise that no psychiatrist can explain with a serotonin deficiency. This is not an anxiety problem. This is a gut-brain terrain problem. And now you know why. Now let me address the thing that everyone in this space gets wrong. And I mean everyone, from the wellness influencers to the functional medicine practitioners who should know better. The myth. If you do a parasite cleanse, you'll see worms in your stool, and that's how you'll know it worked. This is clinically, biologically, fundamentally false. The vast majority of parasitic burdens that are clinically relevant in the modern, industrialized world are not large helminths that you will see with the naked eye. They are protozoans: Blastocystis, Dientamoeba fragilis, Cryptosporidium, that are microscopic. You could pass 1 trillion of them and see nothing but what looks like normal stool. And here's the darker myth underneath that one. A single stool test will rule out parasites. It won't. The sensitivity of a standard O&P, OVO, and parasites. Stool test is between 30 and 50% for many protozoan infections. You can test negative and be actively infected. Multiple samples taken on different days, processed by a specialized GI lab using PCR methodology, is the minimum standard. And even then, the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. Do not let a negative stool test convince you that parasites are not relevant to your symptoms. That is like saying your house doesn't have carbon monoxide because your fire alarm didn't go off. They're testing different things. The other myth I will destroy in 10 seconds. Garlic alone is a complete parasite cleanse. Garlic contains allicin, which has documented in vitro antiparasitic properties. In vitro means in a petri dish. Your stomach acid, your bile, your gut transit time. All of these dramatically alter bioavailability. Garlic is a component of a protocol. It is not a protocol. Anyone selling you a $60 a garlic capsule as a complete cleanse is selling you something else entirely. This is the section you came for. I'm going to give you the exact protocol, the 5-phase approach I use in clinical practice. Write this down. Phase 1, terrain preparation. Days 1 through 7. Before you touch any antiparasitic agent, you must prepare the terrain. If you kill parasites without supporting your detoxification pathways, the die-off, the Herxheimer reaction, will make you feel like you have the flu for a week. You're releasing endotoxins, parasite metabolic waste, and inflammatory debris all at once. Your liver needs to be ready. Every morning, 30 minutes before breakfast, drink the following: 300 milliliters warm, not hot, water juice of half a lemon, approximately 15 milliliters of fresh squeezed juice, 1 teaspoon, 5 milliliters of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar. Look for the kind with the mother, 1 to 2 teaspoon, 2 grams, of turmeric powder, 1 to 4 teaspoon, 1 gram of black pepper. The piperine in black pepper increases curcumin bioavailability by up to 2,000%. This combination primes bile production, upregulates liver phase 2 detoxification enzymes, and begins alkalizing the intestinal environment. Parasites prefer a slightly acidic, low-oxygen gut terrain. Additionally, in this first week, eliminate all refined sugar completely. I mean completely. Parasites are glucose-dependent organisms. You are not going on a diet. You are cutting off the fuel supply. Phase 2, mechanical disruption, days 5 through 14. Overlapping with Phase 1 beginning on day 5, introduce the following at dinner each evening: 1 tablespoon, 15 ml, of cold-pressed virgin coconut oil. The medium-chain triglycerides, specifically caprylic acid, have direct antiparasitic and antifungal properties. 2 grams of raw pumpkin seeds, ground in a coffee grinder to a coarse meal. The active compound cucurbitacin has been used in ethnobotanical medicine for centuries and has now been validated in peer-reviewed studies to paralyze the nervous system of helminths. You are not killing yet. You are stunning and mobilizing. Phase 3. Active antiparasitic phase. Days 10 through 21. This is where the heavy work happens. I use a rotating botanical antiparasitic trio. Rotation prevents adaptation. Week 1 of this phase, days 10-16. Wormwood, Artemisia absinthium. 200-300 ml standardized extract taken with breakfast. Do not exceed this dose. Wormwood contains thujone, which at high doses is neurotoxic. Respect the dose. Black walnut hull tincture, 1 ml in 50 ml water, twice daily, morning and evening. This is Juglans nigra, and its active compound juglone has demonstrated direct antiparasitic activity in published research. Week 2 of this phase, days 17-21. Berberine HCl 500 ml 3 times daily with meals. Berberine is one of the most clinically validated botanical compounds in all of integrative medicine. It disrupts parasite energy metabolism, has direct antimicrobial activity against protozoa, and simultaneously supports blood sugar regulation and reduces intestinal inflammation. Clove powder, 1/2 teaspoon, approximately 1.5 grams, in warm water once daily. Clove is particularly effective against parasite eggs, the stage that most pharmaceutical antiparasitics completely ignore. This combination, wormwood, black walnut, clove, is not random. It targets 3 life cycle stages simultaneously: adults, larvae, and ova. Phase 4. Gut wall repair. Days 18 through 35. Overlapping with Phase 3, you must begin rebuilding the intestinal barrier. L-glutamine, 5 grams stirred into 200 ml of cold water, taken on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. Glutamine is the primary fuel source for enterocytes, the cells lining your gut wall. It directly supports tight junction protein synthesis and accelerates mucosal healing. Colostrum, 2 grams daily with breakfast. Bovine colostrum contains lactoferrin and immunoglobulin, G, which bind residual bacterial endotoxins and modulate immune activation. Eliminate gluten entirely during this phase. Gliadin proteins, the inflammatory fraction in gluten, directly activate zonulin, a protein that opens tight junctions. You cannot repair a wall with one hand while the other keeps knocking holes in it. Phase 5. Recolonization. Days 28 through 42. Once the terrain is cleared and the barrier is repaired, you recolonize. Multi-strain probiotic, minimum 50 billion CFU, containing Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG, Bifidobacterium longum, and Saccharomyces boulardii. The last one is a probiotic yeast specifically researched for post-infection gut restoration. Prebiotic fiber, 1 tablespoon of organic inulin or chicory root powder in your morning drink. This feeds the beneficial bacteria preferentially. Reintroduce fermented foods, 2 tablespoons of raw sauerkraut or 1 small glass of kefir daily with your largest meal. This is the complete protocol. 5 phases, 42 days, written in your kitchen, largely, with things costing you less than a single copay. I want to tell you about a patient I'll call Margaret. Margaret was 54 years old when she first came to my office. She had been to 11 doctors in 3 years. 11. She had a gastroenterology file thicker than most people's novels. She'd had 2 colonoscopies, a SIBO breath test, an endoscopy, thyroid panels, cortisol panels, adrenal function tests. Everything came back in the normal range, or close enough to be dismissed. Her symptoms: crushing fatigue that started around 2 p.m. every single day. A bloating so severe that she kept 2 wardrobe sizes, one for the morning, one for the evening. Brain fog that had cost her a promotion at work because she couldn't retain information the way she used to. And an anxiety that came in waves. Unpredictable, physical, like something living inside her chest. Her previous doctors had diagnosed her with, in order, IBS, generalized anxiety disorder, perimenopause, and stress-related fatigue. She was on an SSRI, a proton pump inhibitor, and a synthetic progesterone supplement. When I did a comprehensive GI map PCR stool analysis, not the standard O&P test, the actual molecular analysis, we found Blastocystis hominis in substantial colonization, Dientomoeba fragilis, and elevated secretory IgA, indicating chronic immune activation at the gut level. We also found a significant overgrowth of Klebsiella pneumonia in her large intestine, a bacteria whose endotoxin production is now linked directly to anxiety and neurological inflammation. She had never left the country. She had never drunk untreated water. She ate what most people would consider a healthy diet. And she had been living with a parasitic and microbial terrain disaster for, by my estimation, at least 4 to 5 years. We put Margaret on the exact protocol I've just described, with modifications for her specific organism burden. By day 21, she sent me a message at 7 a.m. She said, "I woke up and I didn't feel like I had a weight on my chest." By week 6, the afternoon energy crash was gone. The bloating had reduced by what she estimated was 80%. She came off the proton pump inhibitor, under medical supervision, without any rebound symptoms. She is not a miracle. She is what happens when you treat the cause instead of the label. I've seen this story more times than I can count. And every single time I am furious on behalf of the patient at how many years they lost being told nothing was wrong. Now here's something I genuinely want from you. And this is not a hollow engagement tactic. This actually affects the content I make. Drop your age in the comments below. Just your age. That's it. Because here is the physiological truth. The protocol I described today is not one size fits all. A 28-year-old with a robust immune system and relatively intact gut architecture responds differently than a 58-year-old whose mitochondrial density has naturally declined and whose stomach acid production has reduced by up to 40% compared to their younger self. If the majority of you watching this are in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, I need to make a modified version of this protocol with adjusted dosing, additional phase 4 support, and a completely different recolonization strategy. If the majority of you are in your 20s and 30s, the aggressive botanical phase can be shortened and the terrain preparation can be condensed. So please, how old are you? Drop it below, just the number. I read every single comment in the first 24 hours of a video, and the data you give me shapes the next video I make for you. Let me bring this home. Here's what we covered today. Your 5-point clinical summary. 1. Parasites are not exotic. They are statistically common, broadly underdiagnosed, and producing a cascade of systemic symptoms that look exactly like chronic fatigue, anxiety, autoimmunity, and hormonal dysfunction. 2. The conventional system lacks the diagnostic tools and the incentive structure to find this. A negative standard stool test means almost nothing. Demand comprehensive PCR-based GI mapping if you suspect this is relevant to you. 3. Killing the parasite without preparing the terrain produces a Herxheimer reaction and fails to address the environment that allowed colonization in the first place. The terrain, your gut barrier, your detox pathways, your microbiome, is the real intervention target. 4. The 5-phase protocol, terrain preparation, mechanical disruption, active antiparasitic rotation, gut wall repair, and recolonization, addresses all of this simultaneously in sequence, using predominantly kitchen-accessible, low-cost compounds with validated mechanisms of action. 5. You do not need a prescription to begin reclaiming your terrain. You need knowledge, a calendar, and the willingness to do something the system does not profit from. 6. If you have a complex, long-standing case, if you've been sick for years, if you're on multiple medications, if you have autoimmune involvement, please work with a practitioner who understands functional GI medicine. This protocol is powerful and power requires respect. 7. Your body wants to be well. It is not broken. It is not just aging. It is responding with perfect biological logic to a burden that has never been properly addressed. Give it the right information and it will do the rest. I started this channel because I watched the system fail patient after patient, not from malice, but from design. A system built on treatment revenue cannot afford to make you permanently well. I'll say what I say at the end of every video, and I mean it every single time. The system profits from your treatment. I profit from you not needing me anymore. Go do the protocol, come back and tell me how it went. And share this video with someone you love who has been told everything looks normal while feeling anything but. I'll see you in the next one.